Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to join you all and see you all this morning. My name is Jo An, and I'm joining you all from New Paltz, New York, about 90 minutes north of the city on the west side of the Hudson River. And it's a sort of gray and chilly, brisk day, an autumn morning uh, that seems, familiar. The sky is like a dome of that sort of silvery gray, no real clouds, no real blue, so to speak, just that kind of covered feeling, like a blanket. And the other night, just a couple of nights ago, as Soshin Hoshi had shared, it was, fog in the morning, this deep fog. We're kind of in the same area. While she's in Mass, I'm in New York, and we have similar sort of ecosystems. But later in the evening, the fog had cleared, and in the sky was the waxing crescent moon. You could see it actually kind of growing. We're about 10 days away from the first fall full moon. But today it's covered up again. Uh, so this time of year, autumn is, one of my favorite sort of periods of time in the year, if I'm allowed to have a favorite. And, maybe it comes from a Marie Claire magazine or something where I discovered I am an autumn. And, that's my makeup palette and clothing or something. But I really do enjoy this time of year. And while spring kind of is seen as a period of time of growth and renewal and coming to life, I feel fall is that way too, perhaps in a different way. While spring has that sort of yang energy of outdoor activity and doing, the fall, we get to turn the light inward as we tilt away from the sun. We have to kind of come inside and seek, warmth from something else. And I think it's really woven together for me and perhaps for some of you as well with that back to school feeling. Soshin again had mentioned how she had heard schoolgirls in her talk on Thursday getting off the bus and just that sound of, kids laughing and talking and going to school. It's for me and my cultural references and where I had grown up, it's, the two are intimately tied together. And perhaps even more so as I have taken a position at Marist College. So for those who don't know, I work as a nurse. And for those who do know, I have not left the little boy I was working with. Fear not, we're still in communication, the two of us. But I have taken this position at Marist in their health services. So alongside the students, I joined, at the end of August, I feel a bit like a freshman, learning all new information, meeting new people, struggling with an EMR, an electronic medical record that, as they often are, is not user friendly at all. And everyone said, oh, it's going to take you 3 months before you even know what you're doing, with this. So I feel a kinship with these students and an excitement in the possibilities, the taking on of new ideas, the experiencing of things, kind of putting stuff on, trying stuff on, looking at things in a new way. And that really is that academic energy of sucking up, drawing in and learning new things. And it's in some ways, while these students are young and vibrant and, have blood pressures of, 112 over 62 and heart rates of 58. And I'm like, oh my God, they're so healthy and young and vibrant. There's that yin energy, that comes in that of introspection and looking and discovering and finding out who they are, who is this pile of cells and tissues and organs. So here in New Paltz and right across the river on the other side, so to speak, is Poughkeepsie, where Marist is. The leaves are just changing. I'm saying just changing. Some are really kind of well on their way, but we're probably a couple of weeks out before the real fireworks begin, so to speak. And tomorrow at Marist, midterms begin. So the leaves are about halfway there and the students are about halfway there. It somehow feels appropriate. They're half full of the knowledge of this semester. So as seekers of the way, and I'm assuming that's what we might identify as we've all ended up here on this screen together. We're studying too. There's a taking up that we do as well. And the energy, I think, of academic study and the energy of Zen, study practice, there's a lot of similarities. There's aspects that are the same. It takes dedication, it takes focus, it takes determination. Viraya, the paramita of viraya, sort of a strength of, yeah, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to wake up at 7 and I'm going to get on the cushion by 7:25 and I'm going to sit with the Sangha. There is a determination to that. And yet they're also sort of different or can be very different. In education, I think, and in the academic world, we're encouraged to put on a backpack and fill it up. Let's put on many new ideas. Let's try on new things. Load that backpack up to, a back-breaking point. Take extra credits. Graduate early. All of those ideas are kind of part of, the hallmarks of academia. Uh, and in Zen practice, we kind of have a different approach, or a radically different approach, maybe, where we say the it of it is beyond letters and beyond the sutras and beyond what you can learn or read. Uh, and we encourage you to maybe take that backpack off, and start unpacking it a bit. So, maybe start with the electives, start with the things you put in the backpack, things you chose to put there. You can maybe take those out, when we arrive at Zen practice. And then, maybe look at the core curriculum that was put in the backpack for you. You can maybe take that out too. Maybe, unenroll from some courses altogether. If any Marist students are listening, wash these words from your ears. Education is important. It's important that we, try on these ideas and suck these ideas up. But Zen practice asks us also to maybe put them down, just set them down for a second and recognize that, yes, indeed, these are theories, ideas. So there's a story from the 9th century in China that probably illuminates this better than I can. So I will share it with you. And it is the story of yet to be Zen master Deshan, but at the time scholar Deshan Xuanzang. And he was a notorious student of the Diamond Sutra. He was sort of an expert on it. And in his backpack, he carried around his notes and his footnotes and his commentaries and his translations and all of his writings and everyone else's writings on the Diamond Sutra. So in his heavy backpack that he had on his back, he would travel about, and he came upon an old lady at the side of the road in his travels who was selling tea and rice cakes. And so I think when he met this old lady, he probably saw in her something. He knew there was something there that maybe he needed to find out about. He didn't just say, "Hey, can I buy some rice cakes and get a cup of tea?" His first words to her were, "Who are you?" Very Zen question. So I think he knew there was something there. Uh, and she, of course, said, "I'm just an old lady selling tea and rice cakes by the side of the road." And so he said, "Okay, then I'd like to buy some tea and get a cake." And she said, "Sure, of course, I'll give that to you. But first you need to answer some questions for me. What is it you have in your backpack?" And he said, "Oh, I have all my notes and commentaries and letters and translations of the Diamond Sutra." I imagine there was, probably an identity attached to those notes and letters and work that he had done. And she said, "Oh, that's amazing. So yes, I'll sell you some cake. But first, let me ask you this. In the Diamond Sutra, it says that the past mind is ungraspable. present mind is ungraspable and future mind is ungraspable. So what mind is it you wish to refresh with my tea and cakes? And Deshan was stumped. He didn't know. And then this little old lady did the most compassionate thing that she could have possibly done. She sent him off hungry and thirsty, sent him on his way. She was extremely grandmotherly because I think she gave him a business card or a referral to, the monastery down the road, his Zen master, where he then studied and got some clarity. And that's not to say that everything he had absorbed that he carried in his backpack is bad. Yeah, he burned all of the writings the next day, as the story goes. But it's not to say that he put them down entirely. He had that knowledge, but it took this little old lady to take away from him what was propping him up so that he could actually see. So, extremely compassionate action on her part. So, in the spring, here and probably where you are, things start to bud and they come out of the ground. And at first they start, that light and fragile green, and then they become these chlorophyll factories, and they start to stretch their leaves out and, reach out to get that photosynthesis cooking, and the whole planet becomes this thing, a photosynthesis chlorophyll factory. And from that, there are things that are incredibly nourishing, leaves that we actually eat, and fruits and vegetables, that are from those leaves and this photosynthesis factory. So the taking on of information isn't a bad thing at all, and I think of Deshan and I think of the Marist students, at midterms now who are very likely sitting in some library trying mnemonics and cramming information into their head for the midterm, tomorrow. It's not a bad thing at all. Vital for our growth. And yet we have to study the self. That's part of it, I think. Dogen didn't say, to study the way is to forget the self and be illuminated by the myriad things. He said to study the way is to study the self and then forget the self and be illuminated by the myriad things. So, these students and us in our studying in this way really are studying the self in an ability to remember to forget it as well. So I think the gathering up of ideas is important, but for us in Zen, it's just as, and maybe even a little more important to put them down as well. And, when we put them down, like Suzuki Roshi said, we, avail ourselves of that beginner's mind. We let go of our reflexive mind that knows the answer, and we get to open up a bit. So I've shared this before, and I will share it again, I'm sure. But as these leaves change, I'm reminded they're not so much changing as they're revealing their true colors. So as we tilt away from the sun, the deep reds and goldens and browns, and burgundies come out because the chlorophyll factory has stopped a bit. We're not getting as much sunlight, so can we put down our chlorophyll factory a bit, I guess is what I'm asking, and allow for our true colors, the goldens and reds and browns and burgundies to come forth. I think our zazen allows for that to happen. I think that's how we do it. It allows for that to sort of step away a bit and for our true nature to be revealed, because the leaves aren't green. They've become green by what they've, added to themselves. And very important that they did that. So as we tilt away, from the sun in this fall. Oh, hi, Ruby. Have you come to join the talk? As we tilt away from the sun, what can we put down? What has our factories been creating, producing that perhaps, was important at the time, but now we can let something else come forward. I think the trees are starting their session That's how I sometimes think of it. They stop, the grasping for energy and information from here, and they, sit down and they really get into their roots. And in so doing, let the leaves drop away. Maybe they can, let a few things fall away. And in the falling away, start to see really, the mountains past us. When the leaves fall away here in my front yard, I get to see the Shangunk Ridge, that runs through New Paltz, famous for climbing. There might be a couple people online right now who are climbing that very ridge, and I can see it much more clearly. Um, so I think it might be wise to take a cue from the trees and puts down some of what we often go to, put down some of what props us up. Not to say that it's bad, but allow it to go down. I think of my garden. We've pickled and jarred things and frozen things, so it's not to say it's bad, but maybe we can put it in the freezer, or put a little vinegar on it and stick it in a jar and let it set to the side for a second and allow for true nature to come forward. Uh, and it won't be long before all these leaves have fallen anyway, and it's time for our winter ango and a time to really look deeper still, if you will. And we'll have many opportunities between now and then, and at the time of winter ango, to pick up ideas and put ideas down over and over again. Uh, and many chances to have our mind refreshed, I'm sure, by the tea and cakes that are offered regularly here. So I'm going to leave you with a poem that I think speaks to this a bit, from Hanshan, Cold Mountain. And Hanshan was a little bit before Deshan and the Old Woman, but a Chinese poet as well. What little I know of him is from the Red Pine translation, Cold Mountain. His name means Cold Mountain. And I will read you this. Sitting alone in peace before these cliffs. Sitting alone in peace before these cliffs, the full moon is heaven's beacon. The 10,000 things are all reflections. The moon originally has no light. Wide open, the spirit of itself is pure. Hold fast to the void. Realize its subtle mystery. Look at the moon like this moon that is the heart's pivot.